Hey everyone, Pastor Josh again with their next Bible Insight video. Just trying to get caught up here so we can start doing these daily instead of multiple ones a day. Again, this is following the Bible reading plan that we handed out a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully you're doing that, and if you need a copy, please reach out to us. Our last video, we just covered half of Genesis 19 because there was a lot in there that we needed to discuss. Today, we're going to do part 2 of Genesis 19 and Genesis 20. And then hopefully later today we'll be able to get through Genesis 21 through 23, which is part of today's reading. Today is February 10th, Wednesday. So be looking out for that. I hope these are helpful. That's the only reason we're doing these. You know, we just want to give you some information and some insights and encourage you to continue to spend time daily with the Lord because it's so important to our spiritual growth. All right, well, today let's discuss real quick the rest of Genesis 19 and Genesis 20, and then we will go from there. So Genesis 19 part 2. Hopefully you're back and you've seen all the previous videos. If not, at the end of the video there should be a playlist pop up for you to check out. Again, I hope these are encouraging you and just kind of helping you along the way as you read, and I hope that you are spending time with the Lord to nourish your soul. If you're not reading daily with God, please understand that you are starving your soul, and one day it could be so malnourished that you could potentially place yourself in spiritual danger. So please do so. If you need any help or encouragement, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. All right, well, if you've read Genesis 19, we have to ask the question, what's the deal with Lot and his daughters, right? Well, let me first say that this was immoral behavior, okay? Nobody disagrees there. This was immoral behavior on their part. Essentially, they got their father drunk and they became pregnant by their father. But, however, based on the time that they spent in Sodom, the culture kind of had its effect on them, right? And so we see that nowadays, don't we? What once at one time was considered evil and wrong and bad is now being celebrated, and what is good and right and moral is being shunned as evil and bad. So the culture, even in Christian circles, in church, I hate to say that, but that's just the truth, unfortunately. And so spending so much time, this is also another reason why it's so important to be close to God and to read His Word daily, because the culture will press in upon you with such force that if we don't spend that time with God daily, if we're not strengthening our soul and our spirit by reading and knowing His Word, we're going to have a hard time rejecting that, and we're going to embrace ideologies, beliefs, and ideas of right and wrong that are just contrary or antithetical in opposition to Scripture. And that's a very dangerous place to be in. And so that's what's going on here with Lot and his daughters. I mean, they've been so much time in Sodom. It's been 20-some years, right? And so they are just assuming that this is necessary in order to prolong the family. But here's the main thing I want us to focus on. Because we can look back at the Bible and say, oh my goodness, those sins were atrocious. How dare those people, incestuous relationships. Oh my goodness, all this wickedness. Take a look around you. Better yet, take a look inside your own heart. We have to be careful not to become puffed up when we start trying to measure sins against those in the Bible or even those around us. We want to be humble, and we want to make sure we're staying in line with Scripture, and that we're being faithful to God and not being hypocritical. But anyway, so this behavior on their part was obviously what they understood is right, but it was tainted, right, because of that culture they lived in for a couple of decades there. But again, back up. Here's the main thing I want you to see. God can use and will use to His glory and His will anything to carry out His purposes. You say, well, what do you mean, Pastor Josh? How could this act, immoral, incestuous act, be used for God's purposes? Well, I want you to think about what the Scripture says here in this chapter. It says that from this union, right, this consummation, was born Moab to one of the daughters, the eldest, I believe. And from Moab came all the Moabites, right? Well, later on in Scripture in the Old Testament, who do you know that is in the family line of Jesus and a Moabite? It's a female. Where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. I hope he said Ruth, because that would be correct. Ruth comes from the Moabite. She's a Moabite. And if you think about that, this act, this immoral act, God still used to bring about his ultimate will, which is Ruth, in a sense, who was a Moabite. So you see, no matter what, God will cause his will to be done. And we should have peace and comfort in that, right? Like, no matter what happens, if we're praying to God and we're seeking his wisdom and guidance, and we are reading daily and we are spending time with him and obeying, no matter what happens, we can rest assured that it is something God allowed, and it's something that will ultimately be used to bring him glory. And that's the purpose, isn't it? Not to bring ourselves glory, not to live a easy, peaceful, comfortable life. Jesus doesn't promise that. God didn't promise that. I mean, every single prophet just about in the Old Testament was martyred, right? And so we have to think about those things. All the disciples, except for John, killed. They tried to kill him. It didn't work, so they exiled him, right? And so it's very important to know these things about Scripture. So anyway, that's the rest of Genesis 19. Genesis 20, here we see again that Abraham says Sarah is his sister, and so that it will go well with him, right? They're sojourning again in Gerar. Abimelech is the king there. If you look at verses 3 through 7, and let me just get this real quick and read it with you. We got a couple, well, actually we're running a little short. Look at verses 3 through 7. It's an intense exchange between God and Abimelech as Abimelech is dreaming there. And you see how God causes all things to work for his will. As sinful people, we are our own worst enemies, right? Abram tried to put forth his household servant Eleazar as his heir back, 3 or 4 or 5 chapters ago. God said, no, you'll have a child by Sarai, right? And then Abram and Sarai tried to procure the blessing of promise through Hagar. What happens? Abram tried to put forth Ishmael as the heir, right, as the one God would favor. God said, no, you will have a child by Sarai, your wife. And then here again, Sarah is compromised on account of her husband, who is concerned for his well-being because maybe he's not trusting in the protection God would provide, even though he's spoken to God many a times. I don't know. We don't really know that. That's just the inference we get from his behavior. But God still says, no. He keeps Sarah from being touched. Abimelech restores Sarah, gives Abraham a bunch more possessions and silver. Abraham prays on account of Abimelech, and he and his people are healed. So again, God works everything according to his will, and he always will do that for his glory, not ours. And we need to remember that. Again, I hope these videos are helpful. We'll pick back up in our next video for Genesis chapter 1 through 23, and hopefully we'll get that done today so we can be back on track, and we'll just start doing these daily for you, trying to keep them short. Hopefully they're helpful. And then again, just remember, over here you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then over here you will see the playlist for the Bible Insight videos. Until next time, until we meet again, God bless you and God keep you.